Hello and welcome to This Contains Garlic. You're here with your host Georgia Garlic
Mark Garlic.
and we're back, and today we're talking about dieting. Well, actually we're going to talk about multiple things to do with dieting strategies, dieting, popular dieting things, and just create some clarity for you as to what would be right for you to do with your goals. So, without further ado, how professional 101.
That was a very good intro.
I'm very tired today. That was actually a really good intro. Wow.
It was.
Normally it starts with something to do with fuck or who knows what. But no, my body is very achy, very. I am like a cardboard box right now. I literally couldn't be more rigid.
Fatigued.
Yeah, that's probably the word. We're not actually talking
Would
about
you say
training
that you're
today.
stiff?
Mark, don't bring this
No,
sexual.
DOMS, as in DOMS.
Yeah, my body's just. I don't even know if it's DOMS. It's not like I can't move my body correctly. I don't, but it's just fatigue. I just feel like we've had a little bit of a change-a-roo, haven't we?
A little change in scenery.
Bit of change of scenery. We've got some things changing with the old work life.
Yo.
Which has meant that we have changed gyms because we
Yeah.
need obviously a more membership based gym where we can utilize it when we are in other areas as well. But anyway, this gym's really, really good actually where we've been training. Very good. We've had some insanely good sessions there to the point where
We've only been there twice.
Yeah, I've now ended up on Friday. But to be fair, actually, we've done 5 days. So tomorrow is definitely a rest day.
Is it?
You're like,
I
yeah,
wanna
Sunday.
go. Oh,
we'll train.
tomorrow's Saturday, that's why.
Oh, yes, because we're recording this on Friday. So there's the update.
Would you not want to go and do a class, maybe?
Oh, Mark, for fuck's sake, how much
Or
volume do you want?
spinaroo?
Should we talk about it? Should we just quickly talk about how I'm feeling versus why you're perhaps not feeling it?
I am feeling it, though.
Are you feeling it? That's even more concerning, isn't it?
Not as much as you,
So
because
myself and Mark,
relatively...
because we got into a new gym, decided that just to get kind of used to things, we train together. Because, this gym offers actually everything, ridiculously good equipment, actually, to be quite honest with you. And so we're training together. And do you want to tell everyone that we've literally been lifting the same amount of weight for...
Yeah, relatively, yes. Not all the
on your
exercises.
triceps, maybe?
Not all the exercises.
On your triceps, maybe?
I went up on triceps. I went up on
Don't-
arms.
Arms,
I went
okay,
up
arms
on
and your chest.
chest.
Classic,
And-
classic. Literally, Mark went up on his arms and his chest because obviously as a woman, even though my biceps are...
But my
Phenomenal.
excuse is that to keep the session as fluid as possible, keep the intensity up. It's just
Don't make
sometimes...
excuses. We're lifting a fuck ton of weight and you're just not
Sometimes
relative
it's just
to body
not
weight.
conducive to strip the weight on and off all the time.
What are we stripping weights on and off for? Did you need to strip the weight off when I was doing something and you were like, fuck, that's really hard?
Today doing the hip thrust, yeah.
And also RDL, you were like, oh fuck, are we really starting with that? Do you know what I mean? And I was
again,
like,
no, just do my first, because again, I think we also warm up slightly differently, where I like to do 1 or 2 opening sets.
oh fuck off, Mark. Honestly, you're so full of bullshit. Just be honest. Do you know what I mean? Be honest the fact that you have been fatigued as fuck and we've lifted the same amount of weight. Are you going to be honest? Barring your fucking triceps, which your upper body is much bigger than mine.
And my arms. And
Okay,
my
and
chest.
just on your fucking arms. But Mark, we do curls sometimes with the same amount. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we can.
We
'Cause
can, but I can do more.
I'm focusing on my technique.
Oh, I know.
and
I'm
my
not.
mind-muscle
Whose technique do
connection.
you think's better?
Yours, that's...
Exactly. So yeah. Anyway, Mark's got a number of excuses why he won't just give me the satisfaction.
I'm also just trying to be supportive.
How are you being supportive? You're being unsupportive. You're actually telling me that I'm everything that we've done you haven't found difficult, and I'm meant to.
No, it has
have
been
found.
difficult. There have been, the superset of the RDLs and the one-arm row that we did
That
was
a
horrible.
prone, right?
Yeah, I mean prone row. Same thing.
But it was also I guess this all comes down
It's
to, we're not
horrible.
talking about intensity today, we'll talk about that another time. We spoke about it last on exercise selection about intensity of training, but it can literally make or break you, but in the sense of just there's a very big difference between going in and doing I don't know, single arm row and an RDL at like 4 out of 10 versus training at like a 9 out of 10, sometimes to failure. Do you know what I mean? That's a very big difference in intensity. But anyway, I think
agree.
we are obviously at the start of a new year, 2024, and things are coming back into cycle in the dieting world, I have seen, and Mark has seen also.
I've seen a very large increase in intermittent fasting. Just in everywhere I've looked with regards to general population news outlets, with regards to forums and, you know, the places that we frequent.
I think what we should do really today is, I think what we want to talk about is like, what is the right dieting strategy for you? And I think, you know, dieting and diet, you know, are two very different words in my opinion. I think dieting has been something which is something you do in order to see a result, and I feel like your diet is something that like makes up what you eat on a day-to-day basis. But what is that right strategy for you? And I think we wanted to talk about this because so many people jump onto different dieting trends or strategies because maybe somebody else has succeeded in it, or they're influenced in that way, or you think it's best. But actually, I think when you look at going to diet, which I hate these words, but you want to go, say for example, you want to lose weight, you want to get in shape, you want to sort shit out, you always have to weigh up your strategy, your dieting strategy, with your adherence, and be really quite brutally honest with yourself as to whether or not you are going to be adherent to what you've set out to do. Because I think dieting strategies are something that you should never always feel like you need to fall back on all the time. Because I think like a diet is something that you should be doing for, like, dieting is done for a period of time. And you also want to be sort of envisioning like, okay, well, after I've done X amount of weeks at doing what I am doing, can I see myself like forever sticking to this? And this is where I come to our relationship and opinions and experience with tracking food comes in. Because it effectively allows you to follow some kind of target in some way or another, but keep the data, the records, the insights to build that knowledge of your diet. And all you have to then do with tracking food, if you want to do something like lose weight, is just adapt sort of the inputs and outputs, which makes it a very easy and sustainable approach to dieting. Now, if we go on to the likes of a lot of different dieting strategies, and I think we could also throw in here heavy calorie deficits as well, which is something that we see happen quite frequently with people that perhaps don't really know their client or have a willingness or client to understand, or they don't really, you know, to understand somebody's lifestyle, and then they go and shove them on a very, very high, well, a very low amount of calories, but a high calorie deficit in the sense of how many calories are being reduced on a day-to-day basis, which means that like you kind of shortchange that person in a few weeks' time, and it never ends up that successful. But I think we want to go into stuff like, you know, adherence and dieting have to go hand in hand. Would you, obviously that's like...
There's no such thing as dieting without adherence, I don't think. I think if you can't stick to something consistently, then you can't put a label on it like I am dieting. If there is no consistency, then there is no essential diet. You're just eating.
Yeah, you're just eating. I think this is really important because when people say, oh, I'm going on a diet, it's like, but what are you going on a diet? Like, you already consume food on a day-to-day basis. If you didn't, you'd be dead. So at what point is that any different, you know? And where we like to see nutrition with clients, for example, and their diets is... you've got to look at somebody's lifestyle and you've got to ask the questions, do you know what I mean? Like, what is your lifestyle on a day-to-day basis? And really go into it, like go into the nitty-gritty to understand what approach is right to tell a client. Now, I'm not always saying that every single time tracking is the best answer for every person.
That's true.
It's not always been the best answer for some of our clients, but for majority of them that need to understand how to manage their weight in the long term and also give them that amazing flexibility, tracking has been that wonderful, educating, empowering tool. But again, I come down to the point of, why is somebody tracking? You know, what is your reason to track food? And if I'm honest with you, this is where the relationship, where people go tracking doesn't work, becomes skewed. Because we, with our clients come to us for a result at the end of the day. They come to us with a goal in which it needs to be achieved. No matter what that result is, normally it comes down to adapting some kind of level of body composition, losing weight, building strength, taking control of their habits. So if we go and plaster them into some mold of, you know, ridiculously low calories and they're tracking for endless amounts of time, naturally you're going to see sort of hatred and resentment towards tracking. And I think it's one of these things, when you don't utilize tools properly, and I've said this so many times, they almost just become like you just shouldn't be doing it. And we've said this to numerous clients, like, there's two ways you can look at it. You've got people that want to achieve a goal within a period of time, and then you have people that have much greater goals, you know, which are going to take a much longer duration of time. And, you know, I always say to people, like, if you're in a position where you've got pretty good relationship with yourself, the scale, you know, you just realize that perhaps, you know, you've just piled on a few kilos and you just need to, you know, get rid of it. You know that by the time you've got it off the scale, you know what I mean, you're going to be feeling good, ready, you're in control, and it's not that challenging. Then I would say that obviously tracking is your first go-to, but also, like, what do you do afterwards with like your nutritional habits? And so I want to circle back round to like intermittent fasting at the start, because this, what Mark mentioned, has been prevalent in the nutritional world for many years and has been utilized in so many different ways in our industry, whether it's sort of like by books being sold or methods being sold based around fasting. And 2024 comes around and it seems to be quite a popular topic again in the nutritional industry as to whether or not intermittent fasting is more beneficial for people to do on a day-to-day basis. And again, I come down to linking dieting or any kind of dietary tool with weight loss, you know, and adherence, you know. And intermittent fasting is something which I say this, I'm not against it.
I can see why it's popular, because
I don't think it's a nutritional. I don't classify.
It puts a very black and white, you know, time frame on eating. You know, you can consume calories between X and X time. You don't have to necessarily think, again, because traditional intermittent fasting is not necessarily promoting you having to eat certain food groups and certain macro groups. You can eat pretty much whatever you want. You just have to limit the time constraint in which you then eat. And for a lot of people, being, you know, saying to them, okay, you need to stop eating at 7 p.m, 8 p.m, is going to have a dramatic change in their overall calorie intake, considering the vast majority of our calories are consumed at night.
But I appreciate this, but it
really
doesn't.
does suit us. Yeah, it doesn't. But I'm not saying it does or it doesn't practically. What I'm saying is the assumption with regards, the notions attached to the dietary methods, the assumption is that you're going to limit your calorie intake at a specific time, which statistically for a lot of people at night, when they're eating very palatable, very calorie dense, drinking a glass of wine, so on and so forth, if you nip that in the bud, that is going to, in its own right, have such a large impact on just the, like George was saying, the ingoings and the outgoings. It kind of resonates with people that do shift work. So I can kind of see.
No, I am never been against intermittent fasting. Well, I have massive issues with it, where I have issues with everything to do with losing weight, is the fact that there is absolutely no point embarking on trying to lose weight, where you lose weight for a period of time and then you go and regain it? What is the point of putting yourself through that kind of process in order to just then go backwards? So where intermittent fasting goes wrong, hideously wrong in my opinion, is what do you do in your non-fasted hours when you still do not have an understanding of your inputs per day? You have no understanding of your dietary preferences, your diet, what you should be intaking. So actually, yes, it might stop people eating later in the evening because they're like, okay, you've got to eat from this time to this time. But I've also seen this this panic when people fast, which is, I've got to get all my food in by that time. And they end up actually over-consuming in the hours in which they can eat, so that they feel like they're not sort of being restricted and nothing's been amiss. And this is a problem because they're calories.
But that's human psychology. That's human psychology influencing and bastardizing the methodology of the diet, because again the diet is not taking that into consideration. That
there would be no diet if the humans weren't doing it.
No, but I'm just saying, like, that when they came up with the concept of intermittent fasting, I probably, if you weren't client facing on a regular basis, the scientist is not going to think of the traditional human behavior of, and we've seen this all the time with especially that lady. She's doing intermittent fasting, and she'll drive before her time frame's up. She'll sit in her car and she'll consume thousands and thousands worth of calories because it's like.
But also, this is what I say, like, intermittent fasting is not addressing the emotional, psychological impact that your weight gain or your weight has on you. So if you
also not taking into consideration your body composition, which, again, all diets don't really take into consideration your body composition. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, okay, so let's say on the days that you are fasting and you're only meant to eat 500 calories, you're in a very catabolic state where your body is going to be sparing a lot of muscle mass as the most readily available source of energy, and that is going to have a reductive impact on your basal metabolic rate and metabolic health in the long term. But again, it's not going into the practice looking at body composition and saying, well, we can't, under no circumstances do we want to lose lean muscle mass, because that's going to leave people in a lot worse a position. So within the context of intermittent fasting, we need to also make sure people adhere to adequate protein intake and regular meal timings and so on and so forth. It's devoid of that.
Can I be honest with you? I appreciate that intermittent fasting can create a routine, but you'll find that a lot of these methodologies have, like, you look at the 5-2, you've got, 2 days at 800 calories, 5 days at restricted time, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Let's talk actually what it does. It impacts you on a day-to-day basis and how you feel. Because if you're somebody that wakes up, you've got a busy, job, do you know what I mean? You've got to be up and at it pretty early doors. You also want to see, like, pretty good progress in the gym, and perhaps you're in a starting position where your digestion's a bit fucking skewiff, do you know what I mean? You deal with, like, large, amounts of bloating, distress of your stomach, and then you go and decide to sort of fast. You have your body runs on internal clocks. Those internal clocks, it's like an almost surprise when you leave yourself with long durations without food and then feed it. Your body's not in a better state to digest it. It's as I say, it's like a surprise. So people can end up, if you're somebody that's, number one, no energy. This is the problem. You've got no energy to live your life on a day-to-day basis because you've put no energy in. Plus, you're likely, when you're going through these periods of fasting, to also exercise. People do have that psychological link between, I'm trying to lose weight or doing fasting, whatever, I'm also going to exercise. And that output increases, obviously, the level of hunger you have, like how you feel. And I think it is not, in my opinion, it is not a nutritional strategy because it offers no nutritional value. It is a calorie budgeting strategy to help you manage your calories throughout the day. So in order to get yourself to that position, you've got to do the work to learn about yourself, your diet, your nutrition, how you like to eat, understand your inputs and outputs, and then you can strategize how you're going to actually manage that. Perhaps once you've done it properly first. And the likelihood is once you've eaten 3 consistent meals a day, a couple of snacks at reasonable, similar timings, got your body into that routine, you're not going to want to rely on something like intermittent fasting. Like if I want, for example, my output in the gym to be as high as it is in the sense of not calories burnt, I'm talking, the amount of intensity I put into my training, fasting is like the last thing that I should be doing because I literally have stars in my eyes 24/7. And also I think in the sense of adapting your body composition, coming back to the thing that diets that you see in the general don't take into consideration. They might take into consideration, they're losing weight off the scale, fabulous, do you know what I mean? But they don't take in consideration that protein intake. Now look at fasting, okay? People struggle as it is over a 12, 14-hour day to even reach the relative protein target they should be eating. Now go and shorten that time frame again. Where are you going to be putting this in? Are you going to be shoving it in your mouth, trying to get 3 meals, decent meals with 50 grams of protein in to reach your target? No, because you're probably then going to sacrifice. And this is the problem. People can't actually reach the relative macronutrient targets when they fast because, again, they don't necessarily understand the strategies needed in their nutrition to do so. So I just think with any diet, whether you like it or not, like I say, diet should not be something that you are always thinking about going on. That it is just the worst mindset to be having, and it also opens you up for that all or nothing yo-yo approach. So if you are somebody that you sat in a situation and you want to lose weight, think of it logically, so whether you know or not, to lose weight, we have to be in an energy deficit. We have to not consume as many calories as we normally consume, and we have to reserve that. And we also have to adapt it via energy output, which I think is another dieting strategy we should talk about, which is not necessarily directed at nutrition, but it's people's reliance on energy output when it comes to losing weight, and also how that has that impact on dietary, strategies and inputs, going forward. So exercise, something that I would say far too many people have as the complete reliance on to lose weight. Far too many people think that exercise is going to help you or make you suddenly lose 10 kilos, 12 kilos, 15 kilos, 20 kilos. Now, let's talk about that because I feel like we need to probably go into metabolism, what that makes up, do you know what I mean? And also then, I guess, why we're even coming to that point in the first place. So go.
Yeah, your metabolism is made up of various inputs and outputs, in which exercise is a very small percentage of your total daily energy expenditure. So if you go to the gym and you train as hard as you physically can, in reality you're probably only burning 150, 250 calories at tops, not including your basal metabolic rate, which your activity trackers take into consideration when you exercise, hence the reason why you get such high numbers as I've burned 800 calories in this workout, which again is factually incorrect. So exercise is a very small portion of your metabolic input into your total daily energy expenditure, and a lot of people hang their hat on going to the gym and exercising formally as their measuring stick of success of whether or not they're gonna see weight loss or muscle gain or any form of body composition changes. And like Georgia said, the formal exercise is a very small percentage of your total daily energy expenditure, and trying to rely on exercise or NEAT or expenditure, because the reality is there's a glaringly obvious problem with your calorie intake. The people are under the assumption that they can then, the stereotypical saying, trying to outwork a bad diet is
so hard.
is very difficult.
But I
Do you
mean,
know
like,
what I mean?
there's also this approach where
Unless you-
people feel like if they burn more, they can eat more.
Yeah, but they look at someone like, I don't know, Matt Fraser, the CrossFit phenom, who's like the world's fittest man 5 or 6 times running, and they see someone like that just pounding, burgers and drinking shakes, and but these guys are trained and girls are training 8 hours a day. Do you know what I mean? And
that's very different between being an athlete and just being a
yeah,
general
you sat on your
population.
arse all day in the office, 8 hours a day. You get up, you go to the gym, you do, let's be honest, 45 minutes, 50 minutes of relative, relative to the individual, an intense workout, quote unquote, in commas. And then you're like, oh, I earned the right to then eat like a child. And that's what generally, puts people in the position that they're in, where their body fat levels are so high that it's impacting their metabolic health.
And I also hear quite a lot when it comes to women. I hear this a lot. I hear a lot from women that they build muscle so easily. This
I
is
thought you were going to talk about when people refer to themselves as foodies. I'm a foodie. It's like...
No.
Sure.
I was talking about the fact that a lot of women are like, I build muscle too quickly, so I need to rein back on the strength training because I think that's the reason why I feel like a bit bulky. And I'm like, no, let's turn into your diet quickly. Oh, wait, do you know what I mean?
That's the equivalent of saying I'm too scared to save money because I'm too scared to become a billionaire. Do you know what I mean? It's a ridiculous
being realistic
statement.
with you, muscle is something that unless you are doing it to the T as a beginner, like I'm talking like to the T, you've got an insane strength and conditioning coach that fucking programs you the absolute best of the best, you tick all the boxes and you are a beginner, building muscle is fucking hard work, okay? And you need to be doing it consistently, and I've ticked every single box in order to be rewarded with what muscle is, to be quite honest with you. And it's not also about building muscle, it's maintaining muscle. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because if you don't use it, you lose it.
But I also see this trait with dieting as a sense of how many steps can I do? And people think if they move more, I eat more. Do you know what I mean? And also that's been encouraged by the likes of activity trackers, MyFitnessPal, who like to add your calories back and give you a little bit of reward.
I mean, statistically,
for your
you're
exercise.
not... the assumption on that is not necessarily wrong, because if you do have a higher metabolic output, then you can essentially eat more. But then, like George was saying, when those estimations are being added back into your diet, and those estimations are statistically between 60 to 200% off overestimation, that's when you then have a bit of an issue with regards to your metabolic rate. You have an activity tracker. You could put it on. You could go for a walk and come back from a walk, and it will say that you burned 600 calories, and then that adds 600 calories back into your diet. Essentially,
it's not even necessarily so high. It could even be 200, 300.
It could be 150, and the reality is that's not the case. It's
I
more
specifically remember doing this, okay, because when I was very, very overweight, I used to go to like all these extreme boot camps, and like they were really expensive ones. They were ones where you literally just went in and you got like fed like a quarter of an egg and like fucking beasted into the ground, and then you go for a 13-mile walk, and if you're late to the session you're doing like 600 burpees, and it's all very military, and it's like you're literally broken as like a fat person. Like, that's the only way you can describe it. I remember going in with so much anxiety to these places thinking, oh my god. But I got into the absolute addiction of tracking my calories, of what I'd burn, and valuing it against how hard I'd worked, or whether that was that was a bit lower, that means I didn't put as much effort in, and and it started to completely fuck my mentality to exercise. And I genuinely think no matter what exercise you choose to do, strength train always, whatever exercise you decide to do, at the end of the day you should be doing that for the health and the mental health benefits, not the weight loss benefits. There is far too much reliance on calories burnt in exercise in order to lose weight. And also, again, if you move more, If you are somebody that is a high step target achiever on a day-to-day basis, 15, 20,000 steps, even above 10,000, you know, up and up and up and up, and you think that's afforded you to potentially eat more, you are wrong. Because at the end of the day, you know, what happens is, yes, you have effectively burnt more energy, but you end up in this horrible cycle of being reliant on that energy output in order for you to be able to consume whatever you're consuming. And that's why it's really important that you actually dial in on your movement on a day-to-day basis, or, you know, massively increase your calories to a relative amount, because when you move more, your hunger hormones are crying for you. Do you know what I mean? They're all over the place. They make you so hungry, like cardio, for example. Large bouts of cardio will make you a savage throughout the day in the sense of how hungry you are. And so people are like, oh, I'll add on 20 minutes, I'll add on this. Like, unless you've got an absolute reason to, like a competitor, you know, athlete, physique, you know what I mean, and you're trying to get your physique to a certain condition, you doing large bouts of cardio, unless you are like you know, you enjoy running, you know, it's not healthy, because at the end of the day, it's that reliance that you're doing that cardio and you still are trying to claw back on something when it comes to your diet. So I think there is a heavy reliance that actually, you know,
it's a huge problem if you're not quantifying your diet, because again, most people underestimate their calorie intake by hundreds and hundreds of calories, if not double the amount of calorie intake. You know, nutritional studies quantify between, again, 60% of people underestimate their calorie intakes from bites here, bites there, a teaspoon
sprays,
versus
oils,
a tablespoon, so on and so forth. And if you don't necessarily quantify your nutrition, it's quite easy to go into a training session, come out the other side and reward yourself. Or, like Georgia said, when your hunger hormones undulate and your leptin and ghrelin skew because you've expended loads and loads of energy, then you can consciously or subconsciously consume more food, more calories, without you you know, even knowing about it.
Yeah. And so I'd say that, like, for those that are, like, you know, we do this often with clients, because, you know, clients that are high achievers, you know, the clients that come in and literally, like, adherence is, you know, even a 4 out of 5 would be like would be a bad week for them. Do you know what I mean? Like, those kind of clientele, like, we have to make sure that they're not doing too much, you know what I mean? Because as a high achiever, you're always going to want to, you know, outdo it and do it better, which is fabulous, but it's also not going to have the best reflection on your metabolism at the end of the day. So if you look at this, if you lose a lot of weight, you know what I mean, and whether you do it the right way or the wrong way or whatever, you lose a lot of weight, you are physically a smaller person. You require less energy, okay? So this is why we always simultaneously want people to be building and growing muscle tissue, because that has obviously a complementary
it's more metabolically active.
Absolutely. So say, for example, clients can go full at it for, you know, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, full at it. You know, I've doing 15,000 steps, got to keep on moving. Problem is that's not really realistic to their life on a day-to-day basis. Very few of our clients can actually physically walk over 15 to 20,000 steps a day. Very few of our clients. And so when it comes to those that are trying to be high achievers, because that's naturally how their brain works, to outdo themselves, you know, and carry on pushing, the problem is with weight loss, you get to a certain position and then you're like, right, well, now we need to slow this rate of weight loss down because it's not necessarily sustainable, and we need to make sure that we're prioritizing lean muscle tissue. And it gets them to a position where they might have just walked 15,000 steps every single day for the last 12 to 16 weeks. And then life happens. That drops down to 10, which is still a fucking really decent step target a day. But it's not 15,000. It's not 20,000. In fact, it's half of that.
Yeah, it could be 8. Could be 8. Still a decent amount.
Absolute decent step target. But what it does to your metabolic rate is no bueno, because the less movement you do, obviously, the less energy you burn. And then likely is that even if your calories stay relatively the same, you're not going to be seeing progress and you're going to start to be plateauing. So it is one of these things where you have to say to people, don't do more. quality over quantity. And with those clients that do move a heavy amount, they are rewarded in the sense with their food intake. We have to make sure that their calories are up a high amount because, some of our clients do have, ADHD and just need to move 24/7, and that's just the way that they are. But I think don't ever force yourself into being that person, because it does have a direct impact in the long term if you can't sustain that. So I think, people always say, oh, I'll do it for the holiday. Do you know what I mean? It's so boring just only reaching a target for a holiday. Even for a wedding, for anything, it's so boring.
I feel
because
like that is the vast
sustain
majority of the
Absolutely.
general population.
I think not general population, I'd say general population in countries which don't see the fucking sunshine. I think if we look at Australia, all of our Australian clients have got this inner drive to literally be physically in shape. They want to look, and that's because, to be honest, the sun shines, less clothes on, people are active, people are outdoors,
people
have got a need
on
to
the coast.
Absolutely,
again,
got a need to look and feel good. You could see those traits in South Africa and Cape Town at some point, in the sense of they definitely were the wealthier, the middle class of Cape Town, but there was the same thing. It was, I have a need and a desire to look good because I'm not covered in a fleece and Wellington boots and in pissing rain with 3 puffer jackets on. You know what I mean? And in the UK, very easy, do you know what I mean, to be pasty as fuck, do you know what I mean, and pile on the pounds and then be like, oh Christ, just booked a holiday, need to shed a few pounds, and it's the same cycle every year. The Heathrow jab,
we used
so
to
many
call,
people
every time people from outside of the UK used to move to the UK, we used to call it the Heathrow jab, where you put on loads of weight.
But we were talking about this, that we are so, in this day and age, so, there are so many factors as to why we have such an obesity, I guess you could say epidemic, pandemic.
It's an epidemic.
It is. It has to come down to, okay, environment is all linked to this. Has to come down to the food availability. We've had this so many conversations.
So many times.
We've literally worked this out to a T in our heads and had so many conversations. It has to be the availability of food that has pushed the lower socioeconomic class, who used to be the only statistically obese individuals, to now the middle class, the upper class, due to the availability of food and the fact you can afford it. And also the fact you can afford it.
It's tasty, yeah.
It's tasty, yes, but the availability, even if you had tasty food,
the availability of tasty food is
absolutely. But even if
everywhere.
you didn't have tasty food and it was still available, people would reach to buy it.
If it was convenient.
If it was convenient, yes.
If you had, for example, there was one pastry shop in the whole of the UK, do you know what I mean? And it was far away, it would, it would be an effort.
But like you said, in Zimbabwe, you didn't have that shit. Do you know what I mean? You didn't have it.
There was
couldn't eat
none
it.
of that stuff.
But, I always say that, combine tech with food, what a fucking disaster. Here we go, I'm a massive foodie, do you know what I mean? I hate saying that, but I absolutely love food. I mean, I'm a previous obese person, but not in that sense, in the sense of the fact that I love flavour, I love what food offers us, I love the nutritional value of it, I love the taste.
But being a foodie doesn't necessarily mean you need to be gluttonous.
No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of people that hide behind that. I know I'm going on.
No, but
I've clearly got someone's irritated me by saying that, so now I just feel the need to you shouldn't hide. Not irritated. That's the wrong choice, but just the blasé labeling of just trying to hide behind being gluttonous. I'm a foodie. My life is based
for example,
around food.
Food availability is one of those things that then combine. For example, I love I love being inspirational to people how they can eat in their diets while still eating. Can you just stop interrupting because you're going to say something again?
No. But I classify. If you say to me, I'm a foodie, then I would agree with that, because there is a love for food, there's a love for recipes, ingredients, so on and so forth, in a measured manner that is not an unhealthy
But I also
obsession.
relate it to the fact that I was brought up in a family coming from a Jewish background who taught me how to cook. And I think this is actually very rare for a lot of people being taught how to cook. Only certain cultures actually bring you up in learning how to cook.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be really honest with you. I think Judaism is one of those. I've seen it a lot with Muslim, with the way that their families and the integrational part where food comes together with family and culture. But in the UK, Christianity, like, I haven't seen no shit. What's the desire to bring people together for food? Maybe I'm wrong.
Not really.
Like, for example, Judaism has a lot of
mainstream
food. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is related to Judaism.
Yeah.
There's lots of food that is Jewish, you know.
But what about
what's Christian food?
On Friday when you all get together for family, for food? That's Shabbat, isn't it? Shabbat.
No, but I'm not saying Jewish. Fine, I'm talking about Christianity. So I'm saying
yeah, but even if you
UK's
look at
population-
Ramadan, where it's fasting essentially, but then
they
there's
come together
also
with
heavy,
food, yes.
there's a heavy element of sitting down and breaking fast and stuff like that. That brings the camaraderie of religion into different
No, what I'm saying is, I was very lucky
no,
to be
like-
brought up
Christianity, not so much.
in a situation where cooking was.
There are stuff.
Encouraged.
There are like I wouldn't. Again, I went to Catholic school, so.
I don't think you're understanding what I'm trying to say. Is
But
that
no, there
food?
are
I can
no-
call myself a foodie because I was brought up learning to cook. I had such an inspiration. Like, I used to enter all the cooking competitions at school. In fact, I won them. Sorry, just let me drop that. I had such a desire, and if they'd done food science, like proper food science and nutrition at school, that would have been my
But do you
fucking
not see where
go-to.
I'm coming from? Like saying, if putting a label on it just to kind of hide behind.
No, I'm not. We're not talking about that. What I'm saying is the fact that I think a lot of people don't have or haven't been brought up in people that know how to cook or
No,
what to
I
cook,
would
how to
say
base meals.
The average person doesn't know how to cook.
Like, in the Jewish tradition, it's through history, it really is based upon the fact that, like, they didn't have the availability of food because they naturally were like a poorer population of people, and so everything that they made in their meals had to be filling. It had to bulk out, and it was always ways to be, I guess, money conscious,
Yeah.
whilst also cooking good food. But when I say that, like, I'm never one to want to ever restrict people on food or be desire food. But when it comes to technology and food availability, we now have so much influence. Like, I swear to God,
but also
I
look
even
at
believe
social
this. That
media.
if we didn't see the amount of food that we see on a day-to-day basis through so many outlets, we wouldn't want it so much. I think it really, honestly, I can't, it's the same as the amount of restaurants that open. Fabulous, amazing, great for the restaurant industry, love it. But it's also that availability, the franchise opening up, the restaurants on a corner, the shops there, the Deliveroo, the Just Eat, the Gorillas, the Take, you know what I mean? Can you not see where that link, where the movement to get that food shortens and shortens and shortens, but the availability of it largens, you know what I mean? It's just round the corner. Could walk out, quickly get a fish and chips.
But also at the grassroots level, when people are being fed at school or at home or in these kind of places, the food statistically over the years has become less and less nutrient dense because
Cost.
we had this discussion with one of the clients saying he couldn't believe having listened to one of our podcasts talking about roughly the same topic, food availability.
No, it was about you are what you eat, I think.
Yeah, and things like that, and just showing people a practical example of a school dinner in the 1960s compared to a school dinner now, which consisted of rice, mashed potatoes, and what looked like 20 to 30, maybe 25 grams of protein, and some porridge. Okay, and then it
You had potatoes and rice. You had mashed potato, like effectively two.
No, I didn't say
leans.
rice. I
You just said rice. You said
did
rice
I?
and potatoes.
No, it was mashed potatoes. It was a protein, peas. Sorry,
And
that
peas,
was-
yes. And it was let's say a balanced meal for a child.
Yeah,
and then
I'd
take
say-
yourself to this day.
Yeah, I
and
wouldn't
age.
say it's like the most palatable. Again, for a small child or a child in general that probably not going to want to eat that anyway. And then fast forward now to, what was
pizza and chips.
a slice of pizza and French fries.
But I genuinely have seen this in and I know so many parents that will be listening to this
but
will also
if you're a
reflect the
small
same.
child, like
No,
starting
it's a dream,
off
but this
like
is
that,
the problem, is that
yeah,
one
no,
of
it's a dream because you're also getting mentally conditioned on palatable food, though. Do you know what I mean?
No, but as I have clients who send their kids to, I was saying this back to actually one of the clients that we were talking to this, you know, who send their kids to incredibly high-end private schools, you know, where money's not, I wouldn't say an issue, you know what I mean? It's definitely there. And yet their children are being fed like the most exotic thing you've got is a tomato pasta with some cheese, like if you're lucky, and the rest is pizza on Friday, and the parents are like, oh my god, alarm bells. Not only that, they weren't alarm bells based off of the food as such, they were alarm bells of how hungry the children were when they were coming back from school, and especially the boys, they were coming back and were ravenous from school, and the parents were like, what the fuck, why is my child starving? I thought they were eating at school. And it's because of the nutritional value that this food is giving you. It gives you nothing as a child.
Because again, they want to feed the children and they don't, but then you also, again, if you're programming, conditioning your children to consistently be accepting and wanting of incredibly hyper palatable food, then it's going to warp their perception on food choices going forward. Because
that's not them, that's not the parents that are doing that.
No, I'm not saying it's the parents, but if your child is going to school and eating really palatable food and then coming home and you're trying to then balance it out with, I'm not saying
no, absolutely.
horrible
She
food,
even
but you're
said to
also
me that
trying
her
to
child loves
trying to
it.
feed them something that is not, you know, like pizza or something like French fries, and something a little bit more balanced that statistically might not be as pleasurable in the palate as a piece of pizza, then is going to undermine your parenting, but is also going to condition these children to always want to eat incredibly palatable foods.
Well, yeah, I know, and it's also one of those things, because a child spends so long at school, like, you know, you have to also take that into consideration. And these are all habits that then take you through to your adult life. Like that genuinely, I genuinely mean that. Like the desire for, you know, just constantly feeling like you can and you are very able to just continually overeat on things, you know, or to reach for things when you need to be rewarded. Like I get it. Giving a child sugar, number one, would just shut them up. Do you know what I mean? If they were going out, you know, is an easier option. But it's always been that level of reward with sugar and with like highly palatable food with kids. Like where it's like you go to the dentist to get your teeth checked so you don't have them rotting, but yet you go and get a lollipop. Do you know what I mean?
But it's also you're programming them in a subconscious
way
to be rewarded with palatable food.
Yeah.
And then everyone wonders why they become emotionally attached or emotional eaters, or, you know, when it's stressful, when it's, you know, things are not going great, or, you know, for whatever reason.
But I also come back around to diet
everyone
culture
then
here, actually.
jumps back into the, you know, the stereotypical, you know, comforting themselves with food, because I guess that's essentially what we've been taught over the years, subconsciously, by environmental factors, or, you know, parental inputs.
I think, you know, there has to be a level of responsibility, like we've always said, on how a parent speaks to a child or has a relationship with a child or with their food intake. I think there has to be a resounding responsibility that your actions, your behaviour and your words is going to directly reflect onto a child.
Especially your actions.
And myself and Mark talk about this really often, in the sense of like how I got myself to the position that I was in and my behaviours that I picked up, and we've full on done an integrated part of like fucking like case study, and it's not blaming the way that I was brought up,
no,
but it was the actions and the behaviours of certain individuals in my family who I spent a lot of time that brought me into the behaviours, whether it was actioned in the right or the wrong way, that then actioned me to secretly eat, binge eat, feel like eating chocolate was disgusting in front of people. And I still said to Mark the other day, like, it's weird how my mind is, I couldn't be further from where I ever was, do you know what I mean, in that position. but I still feel that sense of sort of hiding things. Do you know what I mean? Not hiding things, I say it food-wise. When somebody wants to eat something highly palatable, and that sense of sort of like scurrying it away and doing it behind closed doors, I still have psychological. I don't do it. I never do it, and I haven't done it probably since we've ever been together. Actually, where my worst was I was incredibly. I started to pile on a huge amount of weight from effectively secret eating, and that was happening due to me being bullied at school, me having a number of different issues, and I used to just effectively find any way to get access to highly palatable food. I would eat it all in mass amounts in my bedroom, and then I used to hide it under the floorboards. Now, I'm not joking about this, until one day when my mum and dad had literally taken me to every single fucking professional, nutritionist, personal trainer, you name it. I was only like 11 or 12 at the time. They were going tests. People were so concerned. Like, has this girl got, a thyroid issue? Is she going to have to go in? And my mum, found, under the floorboards, I'm talking bin bags worth of wrappers. It was a very confrontational moment for a child and also a parent, But I've also seen those traits with my parents, with how much they've secretly eaten throughout the years. And it's not a funny situation, though, because I'm sorry. But it's stuff I've known that people have done. And I love to look back, but only to analyse why I did certain things, because I think it only puts me in a better position going forward. And it's just so, it's clear as fucking day as to why I did certain behaviours. And so I come back to diet culture and that responsibility that parents shouldn't be blamed, especially when you're a fucking adult. If you're an adult, okay, right now, and you're still blaming your parents for the reason why you are overweight or having issues, you still need to take responsibility that you are still an adult, and it's up to you to adapt that, and to make it better for yourself. And the best way to go about there is probably talking about, if you're really that scarred with a lot of trauma of it, you need to talk to a professional about it.
Yeah.
But it is that thing that you can't necessarily directly blame, you're 36, do you know what I mean? You piled on maybe 15 kilos of weight, 20 kilos of weight, and you're there blaming your parents for diet culture. It doesn't really link up. Are you still a child, or are you an adult on your own 2 feet? Now, that's when I come back to, what children see, and where, it might seem like so jokes, do you know what I mean, to have and to feed a child this and to do this and to whatever, and not really think about it. And there are people where the win of the day is just being able to put food on the fucking table, do you know what I mean? And that's when you shouldn't really be overthinking these bloody things. It's a reward having food there anyway. But if you are somebody that is a normal person with a decent income, and you are responsible for your behaviours you put around food, and not just food in every sense. We have so many clients that try and introduce their children to exercise at a younger age, get them moving, because schools statistically in the UK don't.
Not the greatest, no.
But the problem is the influence of school. But like Mark said, it's just this whole food availability with kids, also with vending machines and tuck shops and that reward thing and that constant side hustle, that brings in.
Yeah, it really blows my mind when you told me that you had all this type of availability for food at,
oh my God, it was gross how much food I had available
at school, because
it was gross.
It would have been exactly the same.
I'll tell you what I used to eat.
I would imagine, there are, I get this, the stats speak for themselves. There's more child obesity now than there ever has been.
Yeah.
Those statistics are consistently rising, where, the vast majority, I read somewhere that 40% of children between the ages of 7 and 14 are, almost clinically obese.
And this is why I come round to the fact of why the government's in this situation where all these adults and forget the children are obviously that's diabolical.
Well,
children are starting their life that way.
Yeah.
But I look at the situation where you're now trying to unfuck the whole of the UK and the adults, okay? So the adults are all obese, okay? So how can we do this? How can we attack the obesity in the UK with the adult system?
Can I just interrupt you quickly? Why is it the government's role to help people that put themselves in those positions themselves?
Because there's reasons the government has to take responsibility for if the government's in control of the school education system. I think there's a full-on link between education and obesity, if I'm honest with you.
Okay.
I think I come back to the point of like you're dialing in so much on the adults, do you know what I mean, where have already formed these habits and formed these lifestyles and formed these things of like excuses and not just that. Then you've got clinical obesity where there's a need for very serious intervention. But on my point is the government then should be looking at the education system and saying, well, if this is such a prevalent topic and strain on our national health and the health of our and employment and recruitment and everything to do with this functionality of our fucking country, then why the fuck are children not learning about nutrition at school? Because you can't expect the parents 40 years ago were at school,
especially with the diet
ago.
Culture narratives.
Plus, with also a full-time job, trying to bring the child up.
But it's also that older generation is riddled with diet culture narratives.
Hideously.
So, like,
but with what reasons?
You also, yeah, I know you've got reasons, but you've also got, adults, parents that are scared of carbohydrates, think that sugar is bad for you.
Diet Coke's going to kill you.
A glass of wine, is good for your blood.
Do you want to start? I had a full-on debate with my clients.
There's all this other, So I'm 100% agreeing with you because again, like the advancements of technology and having as much information at your fingertips, you do see it that the younger generation do, on occasions where they have merit to, actually correct the older generations and be like, hold on, that's not factually correct. Hold on, that's, not scientifically validated. So, addressing your nutrition at school, like Georgia said, and trying to quantify it like a GCSE or a,
absolutely,
something
my God,
like
it's
that
science for Christ's sake.
Biology,
it's like why are we learning about
biology.
plants? Honestly, why are we learning about plants and not ourselves? Exactly the same as when we should be learning about our hormones and what that does to us and the intricacies of how that's going to affect us throughout our life and all of these things that are so practical in our day-to-day bloody life to keep us alive, and yet they're never highlighted. Instead, we'll be focusing on an earthquake from 1980, do you know what I mean? Tectonic plates is going to be the answer to the whole general population's issue. We're just not, the problem is there's no willingness to dedicate time. Nutrition is a fucking subject.
But the government have launched that in partnership with Vanguard, the Work Well scheme, the thing that we were talking about, and they are trying. The government does, and other industries do understand that absenteeism is increasing in the UK. More and more people are suffering from muscle dysfunctions. More and more people are suffering from metabolic health issues, and they want people to obviously stay in the workplace, not retire early, and they are now willing to test pilots and schemes to try and get people access to coaching, to nutritional coaching, to running clubs, to modalities of movement to try and...
The problem is with that is that the fact that everyone that's working... I honestly believe this. I feel like everybody that works under the government, not everybody, but in the general statement, they've all got different agendas, haven't they? Do you know what I mean? Everyone's got a different agenda. So if we look at the medical world and the health world, the nutrition world, the exercise world, everyone's got a different agenda. And this is where the problem comes out. It needs to be standard general knowledge, evidence-based from the top up in the specialists, and everybody needs to be fucking collaborative and agree on these principles in order to influence a population of people. You can't have one doctor saying, oh, do you know what, you should be fasting, the other one's doing keto because, God forbid that you should ever eat carbohydrate, did you tell sugar's dead and your gut health's on the floor? And so these people are going, what the fuck? Do you know what I mean?
I know.
We've got all these professionals who might be really academic, all
But
saying
that's why we
different
don't.
things.
That's why we don't necessarily. We need to take into consideration the academics to a certain degree. But just because you're an academic doesn't mean that you're capable of translating that academia into practical
Yeah.
application. You can sit, and again, I'll take a shot at Tim Spector, who sits in his little glass castle, throwing out the most obtuse and erroneous statements because he's never coached a person in his entire life. So you can go out there and make all these stupid claims and have confirmation bias on a rodent study that was done in 1972 to bolster your claims. But the reality is it has zero practical application. So waiting for, men in lab coats to come and try and tell us the answer is not going to be beneficial to the general population.
To be honest with you, the general population really just need to know the very basics, but we just need to know the basics. They need to be told more.
I think the general population just need to form a bond with a service provider, a personal bond with a service provider that can then keep them accountable, and movement and freedom of movement and expression of movement should be subsidized by the government so that every single person essentially can have a coach. And that is one of the only ways that we'll be able to really see the vast majority.
I would agree in the adult population right now, yes, going forward, but I don't agree in the sense of the next future years. I think that there has to be an integral part of people forming their youthful years,
they
the
need to
adult
restructure
years
the schooling
with the whole
like that.
schooling system. And people say, it's so much easier said than done. It's probably because it's quite hard to find,
Not really,
No,
because
it is,
look how many
Mark.
children are, especially in southwest London or London, that, they encourage their children to play 13 musical instruments and speak 7 different languages. And they, the extracurricular activity, the child's on a schedule like he's a hedge fund manager.
It's not the child. It's where is the
I'm just
teachers?
saying.
Where are the professionals? Can I be honest with you? In teaching, like most people say, you're not paid enough. You're asked to do a hell of a lot. You've got to manage so much as a teacher. And then you're expected to know us. And to be honest with you, a career choice for a nutritionist would be going more private, consulting, or be getting paid more money. Do you know what I mean? And that is the problem, is there's not enough people giving out this information. Exactly the same as why things like HRT are still premium. You know what I mean? Because there's only a certain amount of specialists in the UK that can actually help these women. Or men, whichever, TRT, HRT. And so that has to put it at a premium level because they're specialists.
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand, exactly. So, would I like to see, this is not, that capitalist society is never going to run like this. But, I mean, the only way I can see people actually absolute behavioural change is by educating people so that at least they just have that consciousness.
Grassroots. They got to emphasize. You have to emphasize sports and like Georgia said, not just also going in with the stereotypical options, dead end options, or like, okay, you can only do this type of exercise if you do an extracurricular class or so on and so forth. It's giving the children a wider variety of ways to express themselves.
But it's so easy said than done because the
but
money
then also
it takes
trying to prioritize it, and it's going to require a shift in culture. If you look at the sporting culture in Zimbabwe,
it's outdoors, Mark. The weather's shit.
I know, I get
here.
it. I get it. But then
rain?
you can, there's enough intelligent individuals in this country to figure it out.
Well, there's intelligence and there's also common sense and there's also money. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, for example, private schools, and not every private school is the same, but private schools have funding behind them in order to have a world-renowned sports centre and a gym and all that. And we got that. We had an indoor swimming pool. We had all of this shit. But, a state school or comprehensive school is not going to have that accessibility of money, nor are they going to have the accessibility of the teachers that can help them with this. And so, are you going to ask the teachers to then have to relearn nutrition? We've got the accessibility
of the money just to, piss it up the wall on PPE scandals that was given to all their mates.
But Mark,
you
for
know?
fuck's sake, like
There's
that was a
enough
part
money
of the time when
to-
nobody had seen it in history before.
Yeah, I know, but there's enough money to ship off to, you know, Ukraine. There's not enough money to look after your
But
generation.
Mark, that's because we're in a conservative industry, like party at the moment, leadership, shall I say, who have always taken it like that, and it's been taken the piss of. And I've always come from a conservative background, not because I choose any kind of politics, got no interest at all. I just wish they'd do fucking better, and it annoys me. That's why I don't invest any time in it. And I also think you're all dumb. Do you know what I mean? You're all very intelligent, Eton, fucking educated, blah blah, but you've got no common sense to practical day-to-day life, and so I can't deal with politics because of that. But at the end of the day, whatever fucking rubs their little penises together is going to obviously promote the best answer. At the end of the day, Rishi Sunak, whether or not he likes it or not, is being rubbed up by some of the yes men. Do you know what I mean? Yes, Rishi, that's a good idea. We should do that. Yes, I'm amazing. I'm amazing. I'm amazing.
Yeah, I know, I get
I
it.
don't need to change anything, barring the fact that the whole country needs to be changed. It's fine. Do you know what I mean? Because we're in that leadership, and I don't think it
But it
ever
just-
changes with politics. You can't.
you look
they
at-
siphon money away everywhere
But
in
look
this day
at
and age.
but look at what happened with regards to one of the new clients that we've just signed on. He's gone through the entire NHS system because he's suffered stereotypically for his entire life with hip pain. You know, think about the money, the man hours, and all of this going into basically, you know, they're about to put him under the knife to have a hip replacement. All of this is purely preventative if certain parameters are put in place. And just think of how much stress relief you could have on the NHS if there was a nationwide drive, just as there was. Because again, everyone forgets. Everyone has amnesia when it came to COVID and, you know, people getting vaccinated. People were very interested in other people's health all of a sudden because, you know, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you're not carrying the cross for humanity, and we're not going to X, Y, and Z. You know, there needs to be the same level of care for somebody else's metabolic health because of the strain that they're essentially putting on public services, which is completely and utterly avoidable if certain things are put in place.
But can I be honest with you? Where does that all start? Okay, so forget the people that fall over and injure themselves directly in life, okay? Majority of mobility issues come from the lifestyle that we live on a day-to-day
Precisely.
basis. Now, the mobility issues are specifically in hips, knees, specifically
Back.
hips and knees and back,
Yeah.
have been linked to what? Weight gain or
Yes.
excess weight, body weight?
Yeah.
So where does the starting point lie? How do you manage your weight on a day-to-day basis that you do not have a
GP,
direct impact?
There has to be a referral system for you to go into a GP.
They do.
And they would have to, you know, you go through you know, you add on more quantifiable ways of quantifying someone's body composition.
Not
Becau-
BMI, yeah.
Yeah, not just BMI. So again, that's
But even
gonna
if you are
require
very
you
overweight,
to-
you should probably do BMI.
I don't
to
know,
be
a
honest
body.
with you.
Yeah, again, when you look at the entire population of millions or billions of people, BMI is a relatively good benchmark. You know, just to, you know, for a
Can I be honest,
relative,
the only people who
trying
get
to
shitty with
quantify
that are the
certain
people
things.
with lots of muscle mass. They're like, oh fuck, you know, it's because I'm well stacked, I don't
Yeah,
need BMI.
yeah.
But the reality is BMI is still actually,
But
it's
if
not,
you-
it's a full indicator, but it's a very good indicator. If you're overweight, it's
It's
probably
it's
the
going
only
to
indicator.
require you to then change. You know, the when you go and do you're studying to be a GP, same as when you're studying to be a physiotherapist. There needs to be more crossover on like. You know, muscular dysfunctions into the GP and vice versa, and they need to, instead of in 7 years, have 30 minutes of nutritional education, or they literally cover nutrition in a day or 2 days in 7 years when you're studying to be a GP. There needs to be a change in the curriculum, and then when you go into the GP's office, they do the BMI, they quantify your muscle mass, and then the reality is they should refer you out to a strength and conditioning coach or.
Can I be honest with you, Jay?
What they're
Again,
trying to do-
I come back to the same point, exactly the same point, which is GPs don't all say the same answer.
But they should though.
Absolutely. If you're a general practitioner in an NHS, you should be saying the same answer.
Yeah.
I'll never forget smoking, like, oh God, I used to smoke, like, chain smoke when I was young. And I went in, and obviously, like, I was really unhealthy, obviously smoked. And they're like, how many cigarettes do you smoke? And I was like, I'll lie, do you know what I mean? 7 a day, do you know what I mean? It's more like 27. And then, you know, busy fucking waffling. And this guy, he was a doctor, male doctor. He's like, oh, that's, you know, you need to cut down this, you're overweight, you're this, that. The guy sat there, morbidly obese, with a packet of cigarettes on the side. At what fucking point do you think I'm going to listen to you? Like, literally, like, you can't, you know. And the same is, I've been into a doctor, and many people I know with GPs have done this. Right, you need to lose weight. Okay, so what's the best way to do that? They're all telling them different methodologies. We've had clients that have gone to GP, let me tell you, actually, I've done the keto diet, I think you should give it a try. And they write it down on a piece of paper and give it to you to try.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but that, again, like I'm saying, that's because when they've gone through this entire process to get to where they have, 0.00001% of that study was based on actual, you know, nutritional science. And you see it all the time where people, even coming out of degrees, are going to someone like MUN, and who are like, I've learned more in the, you know, the intake the first couple of months at this, you know, MNU, sorry. Yeah, to then they covered in their entire nutritional degree. Because what people don't understand, when you go and do a nutritional degree or a degree in nutritional sciences and stuff like that, you're doing food labels, and you're doing a whole bunch of other. You are doing
food science. It's a lot more nutrient, like. There's a lot more intricacies on non-practical.
They're not teaching you how to apply it to general population. They're teaching you how to, you know, skirt around nutritional regulations to allow you within a 20%, you know, error metric within your food labels and so on and so forth. It's got no actual practical application.
Well, I would say it's
to helping
there
somebody.
Is a little bit of case study work in there, but it's normally related to a very unique circumstance. And I think people specifically with nutrition that is not practical, in my opinion, or evidence-based, whether it's evidence-based or not, it's not practical,
but then again,
is they narrow down on focal points which are not necessary for a general population person.
Yeah, because everyone's majoring in the minors, where everyone's like talking about the most obtuse micro influence that has no, you know, impact on the macro influences of your thermodynamics of a human body. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no,
it only takes you a fair few hundred clients, do you know what I mean, that you take through a journey to like have the practical experience, do you know what I mean, to say that good fucking luck putting them on that, do you know what I mean? Good luck, because I know, because I've literally physically coached people day in, day out for years and years and years to understand what works and what doesn't work, and also what works for certain people and what doesn't work for certain people, and what's adherable and what gives some people success, what struggles people have, whether it's emotional, physical, you know what I mean? You don't get that in like scientific lab work.
Because
like you
there
just
is
don't.
none of that.
There's
Because
none of that.
You don't meet the end user. So how many people how many, you know, emails has Tim Spector replied to on a Friday or Saturday morning with a client complaining and
well, the best thing is he's just launched a partnership with M&S, which M&S have done I mean, at some point, I mean, I've planned this for every single, like, literally franchise supermarket in my head I should just probably email it to them because I've got some amazing ideas. But he's launched a partnership with M&S effectively on, like, gut health and I guess the prevalence of how important that is. And they've launched a gut shot, do you know what I mean? One of those little bottles, okay? Number one, absolutely fucking hilarious, because that guy is a fucking con artist, whether or not you like it or not, okay? You might have been in studies or what, but you've said so many things that now people have picked up on, and you've got to launch a product which is effectively against that, which a lot of people picked up on. Yeah. So people are like, number one, you've told us that like Yakult or the sugar's bad for us, you couldn't do that. In your latest YouTube, you said that use the blah, blah, you shouldn't be doing that, but yet you've launched a single-use plastic on a gut shot, which is just the same as like Yakult, which you just fucking said was shit. It's effectively a very expensive kefir, like, just drink. Do you know what I mean? And the same as all of these things. And the comments are astounding. Like, if Marks and Spencer's look at that and think this is a great partnership, I would be astounded. Because the negativity, of course people buy that. Oh my God, a gut shot. Oh Christ, it's going to help me. But it's so against everything that he's fucking pushed for the past 2-3 years, and it's all about getting people's gut health better. You're going to rely on a single-use plastic little shots. Do you know what I mean? You couldn't have even launched something that lasted a week, you know what I mean? And it's all this like unnecessary environmental impact, and you've just contradicted a lot of things you said. And unfortunately, like we said, 2024, 2025, 2026 is the year that people start to uncover a lot of shit. You do not have it in you as a brand, as a person, to lie this day and age, because you're going to get found out. And I've seen this happen on every scale, you know, whether you've lied here, lied there, whether you've got away with it, whether you're not. When you say things, people are going to take it literally now. And if you've ever said differently, they're going to have remembered. And it's just the way. So you've got to be very careful as to where you step forward, you know, in your... But I find... you know, this whole... I always find Tim Spector to be incredibly middle class. Nobody can fucking afford that shit if you're not of an income. And also, nobody's fretting about those things unless you've got the time and the finances to worry about it. And I've always said this, like, nobody's thinking, you know, if you can't put food on the table, or you're struggling to pay rent, or your fucking mortgage, you're not thinking about whacking a fucking patch on your arm to manage your muffin intake. Do you know what I mean? You're not, you know, but if, you know, you're a financier, got about 1 kilo to lose, do you know what I mean? And you run across Putney Bridge on a day-to-day basis, maybe a yellow patch for 2 weeks might complement your ego of some way or another. But out of the people I have literally seen case studies, like 70% of people have got absolutely nothing from this. They're like, they just told us to eat a balanced diet.
Or just eat more vegetables,
more
just eat vegetables, and
Plant-based,
reduce your protein intake essentially, because he was saying excess protein makes you fat. Excess protein turns into fat. That's one of our clients sent us a TikTok snippet of him saying that. And again, it's no,
there's context to everything with Tim. So no, I think there's context. Tim Spector's also been one of those ones where
like
the likes
2005. Where
no,
it's
but
like,
Mark, like, let's be honest, it's clickbait at the end of the day. There is a lot that has been taken from podcast snippets.
This is the thing,
and
is I think it's also done on purpose, in the sense where you go out there and you say, you know, really naive things so that people then comment and get enraged in the comments.
But Mark, we're not having a conversation about that. You shouldn't be taking like clickbait as the reality as to like who the person is.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that when you go in and you start telling
really
people these things, right? Because you're not dealing with the end user. You're sitting there, you're making these claims, and then you're riding off into the sunset to write another book deal or go and sign a contract with Marks and Spencers. But people are taking your actual, because they have you as a point of authority, and they're taking your words literally. This man is telling me I should reduce my protein intake because it's going to make me fat. Well, what happens when you reduce your protein intake? You lose all your muscle mass and you end up more metabolically worse off than when you first started. Do you think he cares? He doesn't even know you exist. Do you know what I mean? And this is why I guess gets my back up, because yes, you can be the most, you know, researcher on the internet or the most quoted scientist, blah, 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 blah. But if you're just going out there and telling people that if they drink orange juice, they're going to get cancer and say all this other dumb shit, then I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like, I mean, it's not, I mean, I think it's one of these things at this day and age where you don't realise that we're all influenced somewhere or another, and it's like a responsibility in the health industry to make sure that wording is correct. But let's put it into the context. Like, the reality is it's never been like that. It's never going to be like that.
That is so true. It has never been like that.
It's never been, but that, you know, we all come back to the fact that if we contradict each other enough, do you know what I mean, that people will be better off, which is just I think
that's why we have so many different tribes within the industry, because we're just like, it's like a different, you know, offshoots of the Catholic religion. We all kind of believe different variations of the same thing, but we all die hard to our own little groups of individuals.
Yeah, I mean, I do get amazed. I was saying this to a client. I had a massive debate with a client the other day because she's got quite a warped perception on food. She's actually a training client of mine who I began to like help with obviously nutrition and stuff, but very, very warped diet culture, like in their 50s, do you know what I mean? Like just a very different opinion on food than what I guess you would want somebody to have. And we were having all this conversation. It wasn't actually about nutrition. It was actually about skincare. And I said, actually, like, I don't really see the point. We had this conversation, and she said, it's amazing how much stuff people put on their face these days. And I said, yeah, I know it is a bit excessive, but I said, at the end of the day, do you know what I mean? Like, putting SPF, she was like, surely the chemicals are really damaging to us and all of these things. And I just said, well, no different to having sort of a couple of glasses of wine in the evening and not really thinking. And she said, no, she said, but wine's grown from fruit, do you know what I mean? And the way it's processed is less processed than skincare. So wine should actually be a better alternative than... And I just looked at her, I was like, I couldn't disagree with you more. I was like, the fact that you willingly are open to say that alcohol is a benefit to you is okay. Like, but I said to Mark the other day, because we were talking about the media, I said, if people had literally picked up and utilised everything the media said, you'd probably be dead. Do you know what I mean? Like the amount of different health fucking traits, and this is bad for you, this is bad.
You wouldn't put anything in your mouth.
No, you would.
Because you would say, somebody would say to you that carbs are bad for you, then you'd be like, okay, no carbs for me then.
And then
you'd be like, protein's bad for you, okay, well, no protein for me then. High fat diets are bad for you, okay, well, no fat for me then. Then you've got, especially in America, people who say that vegetables kill you because of the pesticides on them.
To be fair, it's gross.
And then all of a sudden, what are you eating? If you're not eating protein, carbs, fats, vegetables, fruit, you're drinking water essentially until you physically die.
But nobody's ever doing that because people's actions are very, very different to what comes out of their mouth. Like, it's one of those things where, I am always amazed. I'm totally amazed. And this is why I come back to the point why it should be a subject at school so people can maybe feel like they're somewhat professional. But it does amaze me with the amount of people that not only we work with, but also our knowledge and our jobs and our careers, how somebody with absolutely zero nutritional understanding, warped diet culture, everything like that can even share their opinion. Just like on any, like what puts you in the right effectively? You could influence somebody to do something.
Because everyone feels like their opinion is valid.
Not when it comes to stuff professional. When you go to the doctors and you're diagnosed with cancer, no, I'm not. Sorry, do you know what I mean? No, I'm not.
There are certain...
So you've been diagnosed with cancer, fuck off.
Well, look at what happened to Steve Jobs. He refused traditional cancer treatment because he thought he could beat his type of pancreatic cancer with eating fruit.
Again, probably taken by a professional when a professional told them that you could be a fruitarian and survive cancer. Yeah. And again, horrific, cancer's shit, but you're not going to a medical... you go to a doctor for an answer, yeah? You go, hello, I'm ill. Hello, something's wrong with me. I need an answer. I need medicine.
We need to, I think, obviously there are huge advances in modern medicine with regards to the certain elements, which again, like... we're on our way to eradicating cancer and all these other things. So, like, it's not all doom and gloom. We're just talking about, like, your general...
What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that, like, you only have a right to have, like, you don't fight back at a professional's opinion. But yet, when it comes to nutrition and holistic, like, you could say the holistic side of it, everybody's got way too much of a professional opinion to not be a professional.
But do you not think that's because there's too many answers? Because if you go to the thing and you're diagnosed, okay, you've got cancer, right, you need to get cancer treatment. Nobody's really going to argue over that, do you know what I mean? It's pretty bog standard. But if you went to the doctor, and depending on the doctor, he was like, one doctor said, okay, no, you need chemotherapy. The next doctor said, no, you don't need chemotherapy. You need...
But this is what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, nobody...
But if you went to 10 different doctors and got 10 different answers,
not on cancer diagnosis, but in the sense of how you treat it...
But I'm saying let's be hypothetical. You go in and you see 15 different doctors, and all 15 different doctors give you a different outcome and a different method of curing
Like
it.
I've always said,
What
the
would you do?
responsibility is in the influence. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
The people
but what
that
would
are
you
saying
do
these
though?
things.
What would you do if you were in that situation? You'd probably go off you'd go with
I don't
the
think you see
narrative.
15 specialists, to be quite fucking honest.
Let's
You'd
be
probably say
hypothetical,
3.
but I'm saying you would go with the person that you influences you the most. Wouldn't you?
Not everybody's illogical, but yeah, you would say the one that sounded the most secure and confident in the situation, you probably
Exactly.
would. But, we've
And
had
the most
clients who've gone
important
through
part of-
cancer treatment with us, and they've chosen to not take a more medical opinion, and they've gone functional medicine, which is very different to medicine. Do you know what I mean? But can I be honest with you? Far less impact on their actual health since coming out of cancer treatment, because they haven't done the direct route of hectic medical interventions, pharmaceutical way. But I'm not saying, it's just one of these things where I just get amazed where like, why it's our jobs, not the personal training element of our jobs. I think that's completely irrelevant saying this. The level of responsibility we have in our jobs to make sure that we're actually taking some responsibility for a client's health, you know what I mean? That, I know you're always going to have complete con artists in the world which don't see it like that. They just utilise it for their own benefit. But if you're actually a health professional, you're meant to actually want to help people better their health. And so I do think there needs to be a more collaborative effort. That's the only way. I mean, whether it's actually going to work or not, because it probably won't, and that's the misery of it, is the fact that it doesn't seem to change. You know what I mean? If anything, it seems to progress in the wrong direction, and everyone seems to be worse off. So the best thing is to look at it for what it is now and say, let's have some common sense here. Do you know what I mean? And that's, I mean, again, I think it comes down to the availability of people, who's doing this. You've only got a population of 60, 70 million in the UK. How many of those are actually qualified or specialists in this industry? How many people have an interest in it? But I think if you would have more professionals, hear me out, if you brought it into the educational system.
Yeah.
Because people will be like, I'm quite interested at age 8, do you know what I mean? 10, 12, just the same as learning a different language.
If there was some form of subsidization for movement, and you could make a decent living from it, doing boot camps or personal training people,
be having bloody people
or run
in this
or run
situation
clubs,
in the first
or
place.
just exactly. But if you were able to make a decent living from that, and like you said, it was prioritized more growing up at grassroots level, then you would have more people willing to take it as a career option, because a lot of people, essentially, the fitness industry is really, really tough. 90%, statistically, 90% of people,
the fitness industry,
well, the industry in general, is 90% of people give up after the first 3 months. So, and that's because obtaining clients and the lifestyle and the X, Y, and Z, it can be quite challenging. But if that was made easier through subsidization and mass adoption, then you would have more service providers and
I don't think movement's the fucking problem. You can go out for a walk very easily. It all comes down to the education. If you are not educated, it's the same as if you don't understand what you intake on a day-to-day basis. It would make common sense to write it down, yeah? Whether that's a food diary or on tracking, it would just make sense to go, okay, well, I don't understand this, or I need to get better on what I'm intake. I should write it down, like we have to do with everything, But I still think it all boils down your conscious level of knowledge on a day-to-day basis, whether you say it out loud. If you have learned certain principles, you are going to make them more consciously aware in your brain. So if you know, do you know what I mean, that you need to eat X amount of protein because you've learnt that protein is the building blocks to your entire body and immune system, you know what I mean? You're then going to say in your brain, once you've learnt it repetitively over the years and had an interest, that protein is important. So consciously, whether or not you have a day where you eat like a toddler, or a few weeks, or you're consciously still going to be aware of something you learnt. Because how are we still picking up on behaviours that we learnt when we were 5, do you know what I mean, and actioning when we're 40? It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And I just think that, like, if it's all boils down, more specialists comes down to
But I
bringing it into
don't
education.
think knowledge equals application, though.
No, but if you are, no, it doesn't equal application. But if you bring it to highlight how you manage your weight, you don't just like shove, basic biology where you just like go and get a load of school children to put themselves on a scale. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's how much you weigh. Wow, you're fat. Do you know what I mean? Literally, that's what we had to do at school. I would just say that, yes, again, comes down to food, like I said, food availability, all of this. There's so many factors. But if you were to go clean state from the children born right bloody now to, when they turn 6, and you brought it into the education system, and there was not a day in their 18 years of education where something wasn't brought up about it, and you had the choices to be able to learn more about it, I can assure you there would be a massive increase in people living a healthier lifestyle. It's just known that if you are more consciously aware of things, do you know what I mean, you action it without really thinking. So I'm not saying it forces somebody getting off their arse at 45 now to go and apply. I think that's really is, it does take a lot of will, want, motivation, make sure your environment's correct. But I'm thinking, like, I think to all these things of subsidising this, getting that. Well, we all are still avoiding the one thing. What gets people to be able to be a trainer to somebody, be a nutritionist to somebody? What is education? It's the only thing that's still valid in this day and age as like
But I also do think that there is a rise of information. We have so much information at our fingertips. You can pretty much learn anything you really, really want with enough.
Mark,
but it comes down to application.
Mark, I don't give a fuck about an adult right now. I'm talking about forming years.
No, that's what I'm saying. But even as a child, they can have, if they want, get as much information as possible. It still comes down to actioning the information on a regular basis.
The point is you need to be ingraining certain types of habits and understanding. If that's not going to come from the parents, do you know what I mean, then where do you form it at?
Sure.
School. And I appreciate the application of people this day. Yes, where do you go in and attack at the adult level? Do you know what I mean? In the sense of trying to reform that. Well, again,
that would be done
it would
at
be
work,
good
then.
if we could educate some more professionals in the right way.
But that would
we
then be done at work.
the whole.
It has to be revolutionised, like you said, grassroots level, at school, and then at people's work through corporate wellness.
That's a little bit yes and no. I would say that school, yes. Corporate wellness, great. Into a workplace, yes. But in the sense of, trying to find people who, can help you. A lot of 60-year-olds need 30-year-olds' help. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the sense of things. It's happening in that generation. What I'm trying to say is when we turn 60, bloody well fucking hope that there's 30-year-olds, do you know what I mean, that are very well qualified to be able to be helping all these people at the top. You never realise this, but like half the people that are directly helping people are helping people of like double their age and some.
Yeah.
Is that not telling you something?
Well, I guess it's generational because it wasn't prevalent in their generation, so the chances of service providers within that generation is going to be limited.
2020 onwards of children born start to have something integrated in an educational system. Tick, 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 tick. More professionals come out, more people to help, more people to help those generations that didn't have it come through. But I still think it comes down to that I didn't learn anything about food. I was just given it.
No, I'm saying.
And I had access to it. And I liked it and I ate it. And I used to wake up and I used to make a thing out of the fact that I was going to walk to school by myself so I could go and eat 2 Galaxy bars before arriving at school, take another 2 bars in my blazer pocket, eat a panini with hash browns, go to the vending machine, eat chocolate, go into the packet of my fucking blazer, eat chocolate. Then I'd have lunch, which would be a full canteen, maybe go to McDonald's when we started to drive or get somebody to bring it to you, or go into the town and buy something or have a full canteen. Then you come back, you've got your healthy dinner from your mum who thinks you're all fucking diet culture 101, and then you're feeling away fucking chocolate in your bedroom because you've managed to buy it. So I see this direct impact it has on people, and I think we can fucking change it. But it just comes down to a collaborative effort, and that's when I see there's problems. Literally, like,
after you've eaten all that food in the day, what are your bathroom habits like?
oh, Mark, we don't need to be going on this. This is many years ago, but like the reality is it's nothing's nice at that point. Do you know what I mean? And you're not very comfortable, and that's the last thing you're thinking about as well. But I just see, like, you know, can you not see, like, tick, 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 and it's all just somebody develops into an awful
But do you think
situation.
that if you had been highlighted more on nutritional, knowledge and impact, would that hypothetically, would that have changed George's eating
I was
habits?
put into a collective group, or what you could say, not a collective group, vast amounts of different individuals that all said different things.
No, but let's assume that it was very concise, very factually and evidence-based, and it was the best possible.
I listened to what I was told.
Yeah, but
yes.
let's assume that it was correct. Let's assume would you have then changed your eating habits and been like, if you had been educated properly, would you have been like, okay, I need to stop doing this, and stopped it? Or do you think it regardless of what you had been told and educated, you would have still continued with those eating habits?
Well, I think you can't always think that telling somebody is going to ingrain it into them. It's about the action that they want you to do afterwards. So most of the time when you're told stuff by a nutritional professional, there's going to be an action point afterwards. And it's what that action point is as to whether it's then successful or not. So if I had been told the right thing, 150% I would have actioned probably the diet plan they gave me, the meal planning structure, the foods that they wanted me to eat. But because I was told the opposite, I was put onto loads of foods which were fucking adverse. I had to go to like a butcher to get these special sausages, do you know what I mean, that were like only made of like certain mince, and you know I could only eat like blue corn tortilla chips. God forbid I should eat, like, it was the most bizarre array of food. And I was I've been put on this numerous times. I've been, PTs then that were not nutritionally qualified gave me a load of shit as well and all of this. But no, I definitely took what was said to me by a professional and I actioned it.
Okay.
So no, I never went to like a consult, do you know what I mean, and had no action plan afterwards. But no, they gave me a plan and it was my responsibility to action and follow it to see a result. Okay. Unfortunately, that plan was not sustainable and didn't take my lifestyle into I was only 12 at the time when it started going bad. And then I was in a PT who was making me run for fucking ages, do you know what I mean? And no carbs after 5. I listened to that. I did it.
Yeah, it just fucks everybody up.
Yeah, it's not to say that we haven't, like, I will never forget ordering Semtex, like fat burner pills, and literally going for a run at 2 a.m. in the morning.
That's David Goggins.
That's David Goggins. Stay hard. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. Fucking you need to. But you know what I mean? Like that constant need. That how like what we always say. How much does this consume your brain on a day-to-day basis? How you feel, how you look, how you act, your behaviours. Like we're not oblivious to it as humans. You know what I mean? There's certain things that make us feel good. There's certain things that don't make us feel good. So I don't really see like. It is one of these things where I just feel like people's brains would be less scrambled egg. Less scrambled egg.
It's just a straight answer. Yeah,
I still remember all the layers of a plant.
I don't blame people because all we do is just argue. Do you know what I mean? Most of the time with, people with different, exercise types, different nutritional strategies, different, X, Y, and Z. It is very.
I never argue with anybody about exercise.
No, we don't. We don't argue with anybody personally, but I'm just saying, in the general sphere, there is a lot of contradictory information that goes out, which just confuses people. So I understand, not having a very concise, evidence-based answer can be, very detrimental.
Again, it's this whole thing as a brand as well. A lot of these people, you have to create a brand from yourself these days because otherwise, like, there's nothing really relative. And remember, that brand can be shown in so many different ways. And so for you to really stand out, you've really got to, like, create something that makes you wantable or
Yeah.
see value in it, and that's also a problem.
Yeah.
Like, because, you know, the evidence base, the this, the that, and also because you're building a brand, there is a personal journey behind it. What is that personal journey? And that's going to dictate whether or not somebody gives you the right, non-biased opinion
Yeah,
or
true.
a very biased opinion when it comes to nutrition. So if you're going to a specialist, don't know, maybe they were previously had an eating disorder, do you know what I mean? And now no eating disorder, but they can sort of rein it in and eat quinoa at, you know, all times of the hour and a fucking gut health smoothie and stuff. But
Yeah.
for you, that's probably not really the right thing. Do you not think you're going to be then pushed onto, oh, you need to do a gut reset and, you know, and this
Yeah,
and a
yeah, of
quinoa bowl
course.
at 12 and this, but it doesn't mean it works for you. And this is the thing, like, that's why the only nutritional tool that I can comfortably educate people on, honestly, I mean this, where I know deep down they're going to have the most revolutionary experience with, is tracking your food, because it doesn't set any there's no perimeters here. Nobody's told you can't have your fucking pizza. Do you know what I mean? You're just taking accountability for it and making better choices. It's not you're going to be embarking onto a fucking meal plan that's full of a load of shit you'd never eat.
Yeah.
It's not that you're going to be given a medication to lose weight. It's not because you're going to be reliant on anything. It's just maths. Do you know what I mean? It's just it's a calculator.
Yeah, it's a
That's all you do.
calculator.
And yet the freedom, it's there. Do you know what I mean? It's totally in your hands. You feel, because you can, obviously with a learning process, not be on anything, not rely on anything. Just the fact that you've got to be accountable to it. You know, and that's why it's the only nutritional tool I will comfortably, happily, like, you know, motivate, educate, tell people about.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe that any other strategy as such doesn't then make you reliant on something.
Very true.
Like, just something. Like, you know, where, as I said, there's plenty of things you can be reliant on in diets or this and that. And calorie tracking or macronutrient tracking, nutritional tracking, not just from a weight loss standpoint, from every health standpoint, it's just showing you what you eat. You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
really
just
is that. And then
quantifies
you
it, yeah.
strategize that based off of what your goal is
And your lifestyle.
and your lifestyle. So today we've gone on a
Well
very
done.
large circle.
Have we?
Have we gone in a circle? We've
I don't
gone in
think
very
we've gone
many
in a
ways.
circle. No, I think we've stayed on topic pretty much throughout.
Yeah, we've done a little bit of...
We haven't gone on any tangents today, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean... no, but we've gone in like different circles. But hopefully this gives you just a better understanding of just like why certain principles should be put in place. You know what I mean? And why certain elements are a better choice for you. And it's not because... You know, fuck me, I wouldn't have any clients if MyFitnessPal was like actually, you know what I mean? Like, I'm telling people to go and effectively have a complete free source of helping yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it's not for any benefit from us, but I just know. You know, I've done a paleo lifestyle, I've done a keto lifestyle, I've done everything. I've done it properly. I've done it completely and utterly properly.
Yeah, I think
And none of it was
what
sustainable.
people don't really understand is prior to, you know, the latter years where you could go onto, you know, PubMed or Google Scholar to quantify scientific research or evidence-based research, we, us personally, people within the industry, have moved towards this more evidence-based answer because we've done all of the diets.
But also we've experienced with individuals, like, why does this not work? Do you know what I mean? Like, why is somebody fighting against this? Why is this unsustainable? Why is the feedback you get from somebody not positive? Like, and you've got to go through those rounds with nutrition and realise it's because your diet is made up of whatever the bloody hell you want it to. And yes, there's so many, as we always say, factors that entwine into this. But yes, like, the reality is that if you honestly can't see yourself doing more than 12 weeks and you're literally setting yourself up right, do you know what I mean? Like, here we go, do you know what I mean? Here we go. You know, you're in for a problem. Do you know what I mean? And I always say that. So just think logically. At the end of the day, nutrition needs to be something that fuels you for the rest of your life. And if you want to have less medical problems, less mobility problems, less mental health problems, less, then looking at nutrition and how it fuels you on a day-to-day basis should be pretty crucial, in my opinion. So anyway.
What do you have to say, Mia?
Oh my God, can you hear her in the microphone? I reckon you could. Snorkel face.
You want everybody to eat dog biscuits.
Yeah.
Chick 'em, stick 'em.
People have probably got no idea what's going on. Mia's currently on Mark's lap,
Yeah,
who's our dog, obviously. And she's kissing the microphone.
Yeah,
She'll give you all a big kissy.
Sniffy, snort.
God, people get really weird around animals, don't they? I'm obsessed with our pets.
Yeah.
They're children to us.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, hope that was
guys.
informative. We'll be back with another podcast next week. We hope you have a good week, and we will speak to you soon. Bye.
Ciao.